Hey, today we're making vegetable beef soup. Okay, so we're going to need some stewed meat. Okay, we're going to need potatoes, and we're also going to need mixed vegetables. We're going to need onion, some seasoned salt and garlic salt, salt and pepper, diced tomatoes, some olive oil, and some beef broth. All right, this is just the basics. We're going to need a little more of some of these things, but we'll talk about that. So, of course, we start with the olive oil. We're going to go ahead and season the beef with salt and pepper and go ahead and get the seasonings mixed up in there just like this. I like to just start with salt and pepper. It's real basic, even though we're using other salted seasonings. Just plain salt adds a little bit of extra freshness to me and brings out the flavor in the meat. And like I said, I believe in seasoning meat while it's cooking, even though we're going to be adding flavor in here later. So, okay, we're not going to put all this meat in here at one time because we need all the meat to have its space. So we're just going to layer the bottom of it like here, just give a little bit of space, and we're going to let it brown on one side, all right? And then when it's done browning on that side, we'll go ahead and flip it over to the other side and let the other side brown. We're not cooking it, we're just browning it, okay? We want to brown our meat before we cook it. And you see, we just have this on like medium high heat, maybe a little bit higher. It's not super high, even though it looks like it. It's really not. Okay, and you just want to go ahead and flip, and then you may need to turn it on like another side of the meat, like like here. Close to the tongue, you can see it's red even though I flipped it. You may need to flip it again because we don't want to see that red before we take it out of the pan. Even though the meat will be done on the outside, it won't be done on the inside, but we still want it brown so we can go ahead and lock in those juices before we put everything together. Okay, so I'm just removing the meat from the pot, the Dutch oven, and I'm transferring it to a plate, not a paper towel covered dish, because I want all of the juices to stay on this plate for when I'm adding the meat back into the pot to go ahead and get the soup started. Okay, so some of the pieces were not done, so I just gotta move them around, let them do their thing while I'm taking out the other pieces. Okay, so after you completed this process, you can add some a little oil into your pot if you want to, but as you can see, it still has some liquid in the bottom of this pot. Just kind of gauge it for yourself. The meat is going to stick a little bit regardless, but if you feel like you need to add a little oil, go ahead and do that. No need to clean your pot or anything like that. Just go ahead and get started. Okay, so after all our meat is brown, we're going to add some olive oil in here, and we're going to go ahead and saute our onion. So as I'm sauteing the onion, I'm lightly scraping my pot because I don't want to mess up my enamel, but I'm just breaking up a little bit. I let the onions brown, then added these diced tomatoes, and now I'm going to get to working a little bit harder because I have the tomatoes in here, right? And tomatoes are they're acidic, so it makes it easier to go ahead and break up that seasoning in the bottom of the pot. You want to keep that seasoning because what is it? Flavor, y'all. Believe it or not, it's definitely flavor in the bottom of that pot with all of that. So this is what you call your deglazing your pot. And you can definitely use a wooden spoon versus the tongs. I didn't end up scratching up the bottom of my pot, but a wooden spoon would definitely be better since this is enamel, and also just as effective. Okay, so we have that going. So we're gonna go ahead and add our meat back in here now. All right. So you see all the little juices, as much as I could savor going back in here. So we're going to go ahead and mix this up, or you can just wait because we're going to go ahead and add some broth in here. Y'all know I'm just overzealous with the mixing. Okay, so I want to reserve all the flavor from my tomatoes, so I went ahead and poured the broth into my can. It's a little trick, y'all. I know it's a little country, but it works to get that extra flavor out of that can and into your dish. So I'm just pouring this entire carton of beef broth in here, but this is only half of the beef broth that we're going to use. We're going to use another about a carton full. This is 32 ounces. Of beef broth. It's actually 2 cans, but it equates to about the same. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and give that a mix, and we're going to go ahead and start that simmering. Okay, we got a good little boil on here, and then we're going to go ahead and add our other seasoning into our pot, stir it together, And then we're going to put our top back on here, and we're going to let it do its thing for about 60 minutes so the beef can get nice and tender. Okay. And you see I have the potatoes over here. I have them drained. I want to go ahead and put them in water because I did some pre-work. The potatoes are already cut up. So, when the beef was ready, then it was ready to go. All you got to do is drain the water and then, add your potatoes to the pot. And once again, we're going to go ahead and let this cook and simmer for about 20 minutes this time, or until your potatoes are tender. Here we go. I'm going to show you all how fork tender they are. Yeah, it was hard for you to see, but they were fork tender. Let the potatoes, after they cook for 20 minutes and they're fork tender, you want to go ahead and add your vegetables to the pot. I added a bag. I wanted more vegetables, y'all. The vegetables are bomb in soup. So I went ahead and added another half bag. So it's just really up to you what you want to add. All right. You want to give that a stir, and you definitely want to cook these vegetables for about 15 minutes, not the 4 minutes or whatever it says on the bag, because they'll still be a little raw. Cook your vegetables for about 15 minutes, and then your soup is good to go. If you want to cook them like 10 minutes, because when you turn it off, like they still continue to cook a little bit, that's fine. But I suggest a little longer than 4 or 5 minutes. And y'all, that's it. Our vegetable beef soup is done. I hope you all enjoy this recipe. Please like it, share it, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch y'all next time. Thank you.